At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we're going to be talking about grandmothers and the significance of our grandmother and how important that relationship is to our upbringing, to us as a child, and to us as an adult. You know, I've realized how special my grandmother and my relationship was, and she's passed many years ago. But I realized how significant that relationship was and how much I learned from her and how much I learned just by spending time with her. And it seems like, you know, the time is such a little bit of time that many of us have that it's interesting for us to actually take some time to celebrate the grandmother in our life. And I cannot think about anybody that would be better to discuss this with than Markkizaac Mago, who has just recently written an amazing book, an amazing children's book. He's a new children's author, My Super Grandma. And I read My Super Grandma about 2 or 3 times already. It's a really good read. And it's amazingly illustrated, but it really speaks volumes to where we need to really be thinking about it and embracing and holding our grandmother with the highest of regard. Markkizaac, so great to have you here on Live Your True Life Perspectives. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Ashley. Well, I feel great. Thank you it's a pleasure having this interview today.
I'm so glad to have you on. And, you know, I read your book a couple of times, and you're such a great writer. You're a great author. And I love the direction of this book. Tell me, you know, obviously I'm assuming your grandmother was part of the inspiration for writing this, but what was your full inspiration for putting out a children's book of this significance with regards to grandmas?
So basically, when I was a teenage boy, one of my favorite book series is Chronicles of Narnia. And for me, it's like an epiphany. I realized I wanted to write books. I wanted to instill ideas that could make a difference to people's minds, to be able to build curiosity and ask some hard and deep questions that could help my readers in a positive way. Because when you finish reading a great book, the feeling of satisfaction sometimes is immense. It can change the way you think. Although I only have childhood memories of my grandma, she played a fantastic role in my childhood, and even a spectacular one as I've grown into the young adult I am today. Back in 2018, when I was on vacation in Canada, my auntie Ida told me stories remembering those days when my grandma was still alive, that she loved gardening, planted fruits and vegetables, sewed clothes. Like there was still remnants of her works, and there was her own styled recipe, Filipino cuisines. My grandma also brought my cousins to their school, shared fun stories and wisdom. Those simple things that we experience from our grandmas, we don't realize the impact at that moment because for some it's irrelevant, but subconsciously there's something happening in our emotional information that affects the way we live today. And I want to instill to my young readers to become aware and appreciate of their grandma's action. That's what inspired me to write my book, is to share the legacy of our grandma, to be able to recognize the simple moments of our grandma's time, finding joy in simple things, because most of the time we end up missing most of it. And sometimes we only had the chance to interact with them during special occasions such as Christmas, Thanksgiving, and other major holidays.
And that's so true. You're right. Growing up, I only got to see my grandmother around significant holidays, right? And because
Yeah,
she lived
exactly.
different and away from us, and about 8 to 9 hours away, and so we would go every
Mhm.
holiday, and it just seemed such a shame that we only got to see each other in those times of the year.
Exactly. And in my experience too, because we have a big family, so when I was young, whenever my grandma was taking vacation, my place, we just go to malls, eat to some restaurants and stuff like that. But it's just that we don't realize that the important part of having a grandma.
I also feel that this book that you've written touches on the value of connecting with our elders and seeing their value. I feel that because of our society today, it's almost such a disposable society to some degree
Mm.
that a lot of people don't recognize the value. For our elders, our grandparents, great grandparents, that type of thing. And I think that this book, gives kind of, it kind of shines a light on that.
Mm.
And I feel like, so
So
do
yeah.
you do
Mm.
work? You actually work, right, in a nursing home in Germany?
Yeah, actually, I'm a registered nurse here in Germany. So yeah, and I was working in nursing home. Right now, I'm working now in hospital. So when I was working in nursing home, I treated the residents there as if they were my own family. Like it makes the work easier, and you feel at home. Sometimes you crack jokes with them and share sadness and joy, and I always think that grandmas, they're just antique little girls. Well, yeah, and professionally, it helps me build more patience with them. I develop being more caring, being more thoughtful. Life is short, and I realize we will be all just like them. It's a circle of life. So that's a huge component. The next is overcoming of various fears and anxieties. In the context of children during their school years, most common fears are being home alone, a fear of failure and rejection, fear of a teacher who's angry, snakes and spiders, scary news, movies, stuff like that. As a young author, I hope I could instill ideas that could make a strong connection between their grandmas and help them catalyze a different perspective of treating their fears, anxieties, or hopefully it, resonates. My book would resonate that in the same way.
So tell us more about the little girl in the book. Tell us more about her character and just kind of things about her.
So Zaya is inspired by my niece, who is living in Canada. It's a typical grandma-granddaughter relationship with until Zaya discover her grandma has a secret. Yeah, so she manages to maintain a strong relationship with her grandmother in particular. For the whole experience, for Zaya, it's just like an overwhelming feeling that kind of drown out her fear. She enjoys being around with her grandma, and having a little adventure makes the story interactive too for the young readers.
I like it,
Yeah,
and I obviously we don't want to give away too much of the story here.
exactly. I'm trying.
So there's
Yeah.
definitely something that happens, and she finds out a secret about her grandmother. We're gonna let that cliffhanger stay because
Mhm.
it is powerful, and it's the way that we actually realize superheroes, and I think it's a lot like how we see miracles. I think that sometimes we think superheroes are just seen, in the comics, and I think that sometimes we just think that miracles are very rare. But I think that superheroes can come in various forms, shapes, and sizes. I also believe that miracles can happen every day too. I think it just depends on the way we look at something.
Yeah, totally agree.
I like what you were saying about the family dynamic, and I see you're right. I see everybody that comes into my realm of being as a family member. And I've seen that for my whole life, no matter how distant or even if I don't know them, because we're all related.
Yeah,
But I think that a
exactly.
lot of people see divide instead of seeing their connectivity.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, let's
Um,
go inside the
mhm.
pages of your book. And, as you were writing this book, and, it's interesting, how this is obviously from also your niece. And I love the fact that you've incorporated her in it. I can see that there's pieces about your grandmother, like you were just talking about how,
Yeah,
she loved to garden and cook. And so did all this stuff kind of
yeah.
come from
It's
your
a
own
typical
grandmother?
grandmother. Yeah. I'm sorry?
Did this come from your grandmother? I mean, from
Yeah.
the upbringing
Well,
of your
my
grandma?
aunt, yeah, yeah, my auntie told me stories like that, and I was just amazed and inspired to write this book. Like I said, like I have this um, a purpose, that I have to share this to the world, and to to be able to create a message that, hey, this is our grandma, and like that. Something like it represent um, important figures in our life, and for me representation is really important. And also grandmothers, they lead us by example, and and also promoting healthy values and good qualities, which is play a crucial role for our development as a child.
I so agree. And when we return, we'll be talking more about this amazing book, My Super Grandma. We'll be talking more about Markkizaac's purpose and what he wants to share with the world. Stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we're talking about grandmothers, super grandmothers, and even more than that, the relevance of a grandmother and the purpose behind writing this book. We have new children's author, Markkizaac Mago. And Markkizaac, let's just go with Mark for right now to shorten it. I love your
Yeah,
name, but help me.
sure.
What is the purpose? Because I know we were talking right before the break. You were talking about having a purpose and you wanted to share this message with the world. I mean, if you could put that purpose like in a few words, a few sentences, what is that purpose?
Because purpose is our grandmothers, our superheroes, right? And probably because they represent important figures in our life. And one of the most important things about superheroes is the influence it has on them and the virtues they share to us. Uh, that perfectly fits our grandmothers. In reality, school children are in the early age of forming their tabula rasa, an empty state, simply waiting to be filled out with various personality traits. By influencing a child, a decent role model, grandmothers are helping young ones develop in a proper behavior. Grandmothers are still human, they have flaws, but still they can teach children to grow, learn, and become better version of themselves.
That's very true, and I agree with you. Well, everybody has flaws. Nobody's perfect, and I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love the fact of the purpose of the superhero, because you're right. It's like a lot of us feel that the superhero is the person that's on the TV with the cape and the mask and all this stuff. But you're right, superheroes come in different forms, and many grandmas
Mhm.
are doing a lot of different things, and they're carrying a lot of different burdens, and some people are being raised by their grandmother.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like I have this urge to write this book to share their influences also. those simple act of kindness, sometimes children didn't recognize that, and I want to make those recognizable and be aware of those kind of simple act of things of our grandmothers.
And you're right, it's the simple things that matter. And I think that we try to make things so difficult nowadays more than ever. We try to complicate things. And, it's interesting how when you look back at the role of a grandmother, there's really not any complications with it. It's literally teaching us values, helping us to grow, learning about things. Because I remember being out, with my grandma, and she had a little garden in the backyard, and she
Mm,
would, we would pick the vegetables, and she would show me how to do it, and she would help me out. And I remember some of those memories like it was yesterday.
yeah, totally. I mean, my experience too. When my auntie told me those stories, I kind of like imagine when she's still alive, and those memories, that will, truly will bring us into, I hope, in a more positive way. Like, it when we remember our grandma, we smile and things that, you know um, we could say to ourselves, like, I hope my grandma is still alive, like that, because yeah, those simple things.
Like, and I think you're right about that too. It's kind of, it's like, whether it's our grandparents, our grandmother, our parents, it's like, when people lose one of their loved ones,
Yeah,
lose their grandmother, it's kind of like, unfortunately for many of us, the wake up call.
exactly.
And I think this
Yeah,
book is here to help remind, while the grandmother is still with us, for many people, that many of the children that'll be reading this book, the
yeah,
value of their grandmother.
yeah. And that's, I hope, would resonate the idea of the book, and uh, on a profound level. I mean, that's why. And in our, current state, change is inevitable, but people stay the same in some way. That's why. And our grandmas are, those are our angels. Or that's why I can't stress that the unconditional love that our grandma share to us every day. That's why I wrote this book.
I love that. And let's talk about that because, obviously grandmothers provide that unconditional love. You're right. The love that's not based on condition, not based on what have you done for me yesterday.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's where we need to be at more than ever. And I think that you're right. There's so many changes right now, and we can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is COVID and everything that's been happening.
mhm.
I mean, and think about how many people have been divided up from their grandmothers at this time.
Yeah. Especially in nursing home, like in my place, the visitors are not allowed anymore, and that really hurts me, not seeing their loved ones with their grandmas, separating with this time now. And I can't. Yeah, the flip side is that we have no idea what's going to happen next year, and it's um, the pandemic. It's really a wake up call to all of us that we have to love our grandmas. Like, life is very short, and we don't know what will happen next. And yeah, and the thing is, in our ways of living today, I feel that we should treat our grandmas in more special way than before.
I agree with you, and it's interesting being from your background and being a nurse and working in the hospital system and then working in the aging and nursing system. It's pretty
Mm,
powerful, the projection, the way that you see this, because it's interesting how I think a lot of times we kick the can down the road. Like, we're going to be able to show our care, or we're going to, oh, yeah, well, I'll see grandma on Christmas, or I'll see grandma this day or that day, or Hanukkah, or whatever. But it's like,
we take that for
it's
granted.
now.
Exactly. And it's really important to connect with them, to reconnect with them, because the um, loneliness they suffer now is really really bad. And I hope this time, this coming holiday, I'm not sure how we're gonna celebrate with this pandemic.
And you're experiencing it too right now, going through a secondary lockdown about to happen, right? So, in
Yeah,
your country,
exactly.
I mean, are people using FaceTime or different platforms to be able to communicate with their loved ones or grandmothers by phone?
Yeah, like today, social media is our best friend. So there's a lot of ways. For example, Skype, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Zoom calls also. So take advantage of that. And also, another ways to strengthen your connection with grandma from afar is send them gifts that are self-made, or create a photo book. It's the memories that will, surely make our grandmas happy, and will bring tears of joy in their eyes.
I resonate with that so much. We're going to take a break real quick, but when we return, I want to ask you, Mark, more about in lieu of the pandemic, some of the heartfelt ways that we can strengthen our connections, no matter where our grandmothers are, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you, Mark. When we return, we'll be talking more about that. We'll be talking more about
Thank
the
you.
book and more about how to really stay connected, as well as how to find the book and how to connect with Mark. Stay tuned. Live Your True
Yeah.
Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Markkizaac Mago, we'll call him Mark. I love his name, great name, amazing author, new author, children's author of My Super Grandma is here on Live Your True Life Perspectives. Mark, I was thinking about this right at the break. What are three heartfelt ways that we can strengthen our connections with our grandmother no matter where we are in the world?
Okay. First, I would write a letter with them. A simple, heartfelt letter is always the best way to strengthen your bond with your grandma. And second, talk with them, like phone call with them, or social media. Use social media. Like I mentioned before, social media today is our best friend. The technological advances today is really convenient for all of us, and I think some of our grandmas knows how to use Facebook, Skype, WhatsApp, Snapchat, 14, Instagram, and something like that. And lastly, um, like I've mentioned before, create a self-made gifts like uh, a handbag or a photo book or a photo journal that with your grandma, and I think that will be highly appreciated by our grandmothers. So yeah, I think letters, social media, and gifts.
I like that. And Mark, I think that's great. I think that even though we're all dealing with some massive changes, and I think this during this time is going to be remembered for the rest of our lives. It's like trying to still keep that connection, and even when this is over with and we've all gone back to normal, I think that being more proactive with communicating with our loved ones, especially our grandmother, is so powerful, because I think in the very beginning when we were talking, things just go by so fast. And it's like, it's so great to be able to have those memories. I mean, some of the memories that I have about my grandmother, it's like I can, it's almost like I can think about them and I'm right there. But I wish that I would have been able to spend more time. I wish that I would have done more.
Exactly. Um, I totally agree with that. Me too. I wish also that I could have spent more time with my grandma. But we cannot go back in time. So for all those grandkids, granddaughters, and grandsons, appreciate the time of your grandmothers or your grandfathers. Um, Time is really important with them.
Let me ask you, there, I know that, we've been talking about, for the folks out there, for the children out there, for the young adults out there, even for the teenagers out there, and even older who still have their grandparents. What about the kids, the parents? What about everybody that has lost their grandparents? They've passed away. What are some of the meaningful ways that you think that we can honor our past grandmother?
Oh, that's a really good question, Ashley. Um, I think, well, based on my experience, because I just recently made a family book honoring my grandma. Like I've collected all old photos of my grandma and my aunties, my mother, my cousins there, uh, collecting them and designing, arranging this beautiful book. And when the photo book was finished, and I gave it to my aunties there in Canada or in back in the Philippines, they loved it. They um, really appreciated it, and I think that's the best way to honor with your, you know, grandparents or your grandmother, because those photos, those are memories that are you cannot take that. It's already uh, happened, but those are very treasured memories that our parents and our aunts and uncles uh, can relate with that.
The
That's
memories and the
all.
photographs, I really like that. I actually have a photograph of my grandmother in my office, and I actually can see it from
Mhm.
here, as we're doing the show, and it's so powerful. And I agree with you. It's about those memories, and I do think too. It's
Yeah.
I think there's been a couple of films out there, and there was a film recently. It was a animation film. I think it was a Pixar film, but I remember they were talking about remembering, like, the your older family members that have passed, and each time you remember them,
Oh,
and
I think yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about?
I
Is it
think that's
Coco?
Coco. I think yeah, it's I think that's Coco. Watched that film a million times. I love that movie.
It's a great film. I mean, and let's talk
Yeah.
about that. So, like in Coco, right? It's about him. It's about the main character remembering his grandparents, right? And how each time you remember them, it like enriches their memory, but also it kind of connects with them. Tell me your take on the film.
Um, Reconnecting with your loved ones, with your past loved ones, it really nurture your soul also because it's part of your um, being that person today. Like you've learned from them and the history and everything that happened to your family, of your history. It's just knowing the part of who we are. And I think that's really important. Being self aware and having this self awareness. Um, it's um, really develop our self today. And the feeling of of um, knowing your grandmas or your grandparents, so to speak, is priceless because you learn uh, a piece of your blood, something like that.
Very true. And that's why
Mhm.
the movie Coco really connects me with your book because I do feel like it's like remembering. So if you do have your grandmother still with you, or you're very young and a child, and so for everybody out here listening to the show right now, this is a great book, especially if your child's grandmother is still alive and to be able to connect with this. And I think this enriches the connection. If a grandmother has passed, to be able to enrich the memory, I think is also valuable as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we return, we'll be talking more about My Super Grandma, as well as where you can find the book and how to connect with Markkizaac, which is so great, how to find him on social media, and more. So stay tuned because Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we've been talking about the importance of grandmothers, the importance of being able to respect and to love and to care for, but also the memories. We've talked about even Coco, the movie, about how instrumental that film was about just realizing, recognizing, reconnecting with memories and how the memories keep the folks that have passed alive within our heart and within our mind. And Markkizaac Mago is here live on Live Your True Life Perspectives. And, Mark, I have a question for you because, one thing that we
Mhm.
haven't talked
Sure.
about on the show is, what about the grandmothers who are tuning in right now to listen? What are some messages from the heart that you have for them?
Um, my message is, thank you for being there with us, for the wisdom and knowledge you impart with us, for taking care of our parents, for the unforgettable memories that will truly keep in our hearts, and finally, for the unconditional love that you always show to us. From the bottom of my heart, a big thank you.
This is amazing, and I love the book because it really is. It's like being able to give this book is such a connection to
Mhm.
who the grandmother is, and real quick for all of our listeners, Mark, how do you see the grandparents, the grandmother, just how do you see unconditional love as far as from the provider as a grandmother? How do you see that? How did you receive that when you were growing up with being able to see your grandma?
Oh, Um, I remember that whenever my grandma is there in our house, is like I feel the connection, um, the stories that she shared to us, and the way she looked, or the way she took care of us. It's so amazing because I remember when we need help financially, my mom asked my grandma, and she just gave money to us with no question asked. And I those simple things I remember is really touches my heart. That's why, yeah. Mhm.
Being helped and in the process of, yeah, her giving altruistically and helping and just wanting to help as any way she could.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel that. And I felt that. Yeah, that's why. And that's why our super grandmas are superheroes.
It's so powerful. Let me ask you, where can we find your book? Where can we purchase your book online?
Oh, so check out my book, My Super Grandma. It is available in selected Amazon worldwide. So I'm on Facebook also, facebook.com/Markkizaac.Mago, and Instagram, Zaki Zucchini. So yeah, just keep in touch. I'm very active on my social media. I communicate with my readers. Get involved, get engaged, and I'll see you there.
This is awesome. Yeah, it's a great book, and I've read it several times, and it's obviously it's a smooth read. It's a great read.
It's a
Kids will
simple
love
book,
it.
yeah, I think. Hmm.
Yeah, kids will love it. I mean, it's just it's great to be able. It would be a great book to read with your grandma.
Yeah. And lastly, I'm working on a book. I've been working on a book. I'm really excited for it. To me, it's kind of a logical next step of my super grandma. It's called My Super Grandpa. So hopefully it will be out next year. So stay tuned.
Can't wait, and definitely have you back on the show to talk about my super grandpa. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, lasting thoughts, Mark. Anything else that you would like to say to our listeners? Just any sort of inspiration or thought or anything that comes to mind.
uh, love your grandma. Spend time with your grandma, and always be grateful for that time because we don't know how uh, what will happen next, you know. And just also um, improve yourself every day. Just hustle every day, every minute. Take time to improve yourself and um, spread some positivity because uh, this world now has a lot of negativity, so we don't need any negatives right now.
I totally agree with you. And Mark, I
Yeah.
love this. And for everybody out there listening to Live Your True Life Perspectives, the concept of seeing the value in all of our lives. The people that come into our life are amazingly important. They either are there for a lifetime, they're there for a season, they're there to help us, or they're there to teach us a lesson. And, our grandmothers are there to help us, to hold our hands, and no matter what, we're not talking about perfection. We're talking about they provide what they can and they help what they can do. And another thing, too, that I love what Mark said is that, we just need to love and be loved and to be able to take advantage of what we have when somebody is here on this planet and to turn around and be able to love them even when they're not on the planet, to be able to recognize the memory, to share the memory with others, to bring tears of joy and happiness, as well as to recognize the unconditional love concept and the unconditional love that was given from a grandma. We can all recognize that within ourselves. We have to find it within ourselves to be able to radiate that to others. But this is what is so important. And as you said, Mark, you're right. we need more positive than negative now more than ever, and to be able to see the love that really envelops us and to be able to connect with that. And I think that your book, My Super Grandma, will do just that. And for everybody listening, you can find the book on Amazon. The link will be in the description here. And the information as far as how to find Mark on social media will be there as well. He's on Facebook and Instagram. And Mark, thank you so much for coming here on the show. I've appreciated this interview so much.
Thank you, Ashley. It's a pleasure.
I'd love to have you coming back to talk about your next book. So we'll await the book and we'll have you back on.
Thank you, Ashley. Go.
Great show. And for all y'all out there, this book is great, and it's a great book, and it's an honor to our grandmothers. And looking forward to Mark's next book, which will be honoring all of our grandparents. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, remember, it's all about you. It's about focusing. No matter what we're dealing with, no matter what we're going through, it's about refocusing and being mindful and realizing the value of what's in our life, the value of our life, and the value of the people in it. I think Mark's book is amazing, and I think this really is a cherished book that'll be cherished by many who read it to understand the value of that, but also to connect with grandparents, to remember them, and to connect with their grandmother and the value of the grandmother that they bring to their life. There'll be another show next soon, and don't forget to live your true life. But in the meantime, I can't wait to see you back here on the show. So stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.